Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Hey, this week's question comes inspired by my wife. We were talking about songs from our childhood, and she posed the question, what was the song that you liked when you were younger that you might be embarrassed now, find embarrassing now? She talked about the children's nursery rhyme that she had on a children's record called Taffy Was A Welshman, which was a little bit, probably in certain contexts, a little bit derogatory. Although if you look up the Wikipedia entry on the song, it has some interesting side notes about how it, Welshmen might not mind being referred as Taff or Taffy. But she had a children's record with it on. It's something like, Taffy was a Welshman, Taffy was a thief, Taffy came to my house and stole a side of beef. The greatest thing, though, is when I researched it, and I forgot about this, one of my favorite cartoons as a kid was Rocky and Bullwinkle. And there's a Bullwinkle's Corner called Taffy, which you can find on YouTube, and we'll provide the link, where he does a rendition of the song with Boris. So you'll have to click the link and watch that. Anyway, so getting to my answer to the story is, so my family is half Italian heritage, and my mom's side of the family was from the South, from Alabama. And when I was a kid, we would go to my mom's side of the family for family gatherings, and my grandfather, who we called Pappy, he played a guitar and banjo, and he had various musical groups while he was a young man and into his adulthood. And at family gatherings, they would pull out the guitars and banjos and they would play songs. And as a kid, I used to love the song. It was called Good Old Mountain Dew. It's a classic bluegrass song. Maybe you've heard of it before. Of course, as a kid, I didn't realize they were referring to moonshine, the Still in the Woods or whatever. But I used to love that song because everybody could sing along. It was pretty simple. My grandfather, who I called Pappy, played in bands. I have actually a picture of one of the first bands he played in. It was Billy Stewart and his orchestra, and my grandfather is in the picture in the upper left, holding the gorgeous hollow body guitar. You can see that. Anyway, he would play that song and we would love to sing along. My favorite verse of that song is, well, my uncle Snort, he's sawed off and short. He measures 4 feet 2, but feels like a giant when you give him a pint of that good old Mountain Dew. So anyway, that's one of my favorite songs as a kid. It brings back happy memories of family gatherings from that side of the family. And that's my answer to the question this week.
That's not that embarrassing.
Not really.
I mean, the half Italian, half Southerner puzzles me, because I'm picturing weird versions of The Godfather with like the Dukes of Hazzard car. Well, it was about this time that Fredo realized that they were on to it.
Maybe if Sonny had been driving that, he wouldn't have.
If Sonny had been driving that, he'd be fine. Yeah. But Fredo could bang waitresses 2 at a time. I'm a big fan of Fredo, really. Now that was not, I don't think I was embarrassed. Mine's going to be embarrassing. Mine actually, your question came in. I was looking at the email as I was listening to the Bizarre Albums podcast. And the Bizarre Albums podcast actually started the episode I was listening to with this song. And it just, a flood of embarrassment hit me. The song is actually called Energy Crisis 74 by the oddly named Dickie Goodman. And I'm not quite sure if it actually counts as a song. It's kind of like an early example of sampling, or in this case, stealing, flat out stealing. It's they have a premise, and then they take songs, like little snippets of songs, and they put them in to the premise. So it's about the energy crisis. So you hear a voice go, Mr. President, how much gas will people be allowed? And you hear like Stevie Wonder going, just enough for the city. It's bad. And for some reason, when this came out when I was 11 years old, and I thought it was genius. And as you can tell, it's 74. And unless you're Carl Wilson, you probably just assume, like most people, 1974 was the worst year for music. And it was. It was terrible. And I was 11 years old, and I was in their target demographic for bad music. And I didn't like Billy Don't Be a Hero or The Night Chicago Died or You're Having My Baby, any of that crap from 74. But for some reason, I liked this god-awful song, Energy Crisis 74. So it actually gets worse. I'm 11 years old, like I said, and it's like, you're in sixth grade. It's your first time in junior high. And we had a music teacher. And she would let us, she's like, and everybody can bring in a song, and she was very, very adamant about this because she said it maybe 27 times in the matter of 30 seconds. She was, I just don't want to have acid rock. I can't stand acid rock. I didn't know what acid rock was. So like that night I just went home and asked my sister, I'm like, do you have any acid rock? Like, I really like to hear that. It sounds really interesting. So that's what I brought in. That's a single that I brought in. So like these other kids, the other kids were a lot cooler than I was. Like they're bringing in like Tell Me Something Good by Rufus, and they're kind of like, and I put that, and I knew it was like in the stack, so I couldn't get it out. I'm like, oh God, they're going to play this. And everybody's just going, how did this get? And they were right. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible song. Now that said, the really weird thing about this is that Dickie Goodman also recorded a song called The Flying Saucer. It's the same principle. He did this for like 30 years in 1956. And my parents actually had that single. I did not know it was the same person. They had that single in their singles collection. So maybe I was genetically predisposed to like this song. But I mean, generally it also might, I'm not a huge fan of novelty rock, despite being in the band we're in. But that said, that same year, Jim Stafford released Spiders and Snakes, which is a song I am proud to still love. In fact, I'll do that to Vienna. Every time I see a frog, I go, this frog's for you. So I will ride or die for anything that Jim Stafford did. I'll ride or die for Spiders and Snakes, Wildwood Weed, maybe even My Girl Bill. But yes, I actually and I would probably sit and listen to it over and over again. Energy Crisis 74. We'll provide a link. I've been able, just because of the wave of embarrassment, I have not been able to listen to more than just a few snippets. I think 3 of the Beatles, it's the closest I ever came to owning a Beatles record. I think 3 of the Beatles appear on this in their separate incarnations. And then later on, because of lawsuits and stuff, they had to kind of, which makes it even worse, recreate the bands on, some of the bands on there because they got sued. So it's not even like the original. It's pretty horrible. And I'm ashamed of myself.
Well, pretty much all of my childhood musical taste is embarrassing to me now. But Rodney reminds me of a record I had when I was in the 5th grade called Convention 72, and it's the same format. Although that's not the one I was thinking of for this. It's, the same format of a song made up of a lot of other songs. Anyway,
could that be considered like those records be considered like early sampling records?
They are.
They would. Yeah, they were early sampling.
They're probably quasi legal too. There's probably some loophole that allowed them to use, because I'm sure they didn't get permission from the the records that were sampled. But I was really into this record, and
yeah, you can draw a line from Dickie Goodman right to Throbbing Gristle. It's just right now.
Throbbing Dickie.
Throbbing Dickie, yeah.
Also, when I was in 5th grade, I really liked the song. This is the one by a band called The Sweet, and it was the song Little Willy.
Little silly Willy won't.
Yeah,
I love that song.
It wasn't it's written by Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman, who aren't in the band The Sweet, and they wrote a lot of the Sweet songs back then.
Was Mike Chapman also involved in Blondie later?
Yeah, Chapman produced some Blondie albums.
Yes.
So I guess there's a sort of a new wave punk rock thing, and the Sweet were considered glitter rock or glam or something. I'm not sure, glitter rock or something. They're a British band, but this song, Little Willy, was in the top 10.
I loved it.
In 1972, and I loved it. And
still do. It
sounds like it's a song about a guy named Willy who won't go home. He likes to go out and dance, do the shimmy or whatever. And that's it seems innocent enough. But when I first met Dave Schulteis in the early days of getting to know him, we were talking about our early music listening experiences, and the Sweet came up, and they later changed their name to just Sweet, and had another hit called Ballroom Blitz, which they did write. Oh, and by the way, they didn't even play their own instruments on this song, I found out. But they did play their own instruments live. But he told me, you know what that song's about? That song's about an erection. I never got it. I mean, I never got it back then. But then after looking at the lyrics again, I could sort of see it. And I looked it up on the internet, and there is definitely a conspiracy thing. Like if you look at Genius Lyrics, that site where crowdsourcing of meanings of lyrics, it's in there. So, and also what's embarrassing about it, besides the lyrics to me, is how simple the music is and how irritatingly catchy it is. Like it's one of those songs that the chorus gets caught in my head and I don't want it there. So, but I loved it as a kid.
We need to find out if Mr. Chapman is the inventor of the Chapman stick. You know, the guitar where you play in between the thread. No, he might be. So, you know, I want to look into that. I'm going to look into that, and I'll let people know. Next week, tune in. I'll let you know if he invented the Chapman stick. Okay. Which would be even funnier. Little silly Willy won't. Yeah. All right. I'm a horrible person. Sorry.
Is it my turn?
Like four of us.
Please.
Well, yeah, mine is weird because until age 12, I only listened to either classical music, because I was really into piano, or like movie scores. And then I graduated to soundtracks, like the Stand By Me soundtrack, or like Back to the Future soundtrack, and just whatever, and listen to whatever was on the radio. But the first cassette tape I bought was, and this isn't really embarrassing, but I guess it's like a relative thing. I'm a little younger than you guys, but the first cassette tape I bought was Nirvana, Nevermind, because Smells Like Teen Spirit, just like I heard that and it just was like this fresh thing to me. So it's weird. I was debating whether I should choose this song because I'm not embarrassed about it, but it was like, on the radio, it was mainstream, and I know Rodney hates it, but I was 12 years old, and it was like, all there was like crap on the radio that just like, I didn't pay attention to, but it was the first song where I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And I bought the tape and I was like, yeah, this is great. But I must say it was a doorway for, I guess, like 2 years later, getting really into the Dead Milkmen. Because I was like, fuck that shit. This is way better. And then I started getting into all sorts of great music, like Circle Jerks and Dead Kennedys and so on and so forth. But yeah, I guess it's embarrassing in the sense that like, of what Nirvana kind of stands for now, and how like they're still considered like this great band, and Kurt Cobain is like a saint in people's eyes. But I hear that song now and I just roll my eyes, and I want to be able to go back to being 12 years old and being like, yeah, this song, but just everything that has happened since then and everything that's talked about them, and it's kind of embarrassing because I'm like, that was like the first song I got into, but it was really Dead Milkmen were the first band I really got into, like where I started writing letters and stuff. that you guys didn't answer.
You were saying how bad the radio was. Get this. The radio was so bad in 1974 that I went Energy Crisis 74. That's how bad. Go and look up 1974. Okay, music and yeah, I can kind of understand when people go, well, there was nothing on the radio at the time, and then they listen.
You were saying like Jesus rock took over or something.
It was no. Joe has a book about music, and it ends in 1974 is generally regarded up until poptimism reared its ugly head and pulled its BS. 1970 now if you ask like poptimists, they'll tell you how great all that music is. Like they'll tell you how She's Having My Baby is really this like intellectual and well put together, and we shouldn't make fun of songs like that. And I look at Williamsburg and think, did we run out of nuclear weapons? Do we have nothing left in the arsenal? I'm going to do a what's his face, in Dr. Strangelove, waving the cowboy hat. All right, I digress there, but yeah. Yeah, it was damn. I mean, just go look up. If those of you watching this, just Google, just put in music of 1974, and I bet you the stuff that pops up is just going to be horrendous.
Yeah, I guess you guys would have been
11. I was 11. 74.
Yeah, about the same age. Yeah.
We wouldn't have the Golden Shower of Hits medley by Circle Jerks if it wasn't for 74, and that's
true.
That's an awesome piece of punk rock in my opinion.
That is an awesome piece of punk rock. Yes.
Okay, recommendation time. So let's see, as we are recording this on July 29th, 2021, the COVID situation is starting to heat up again. And we have the Delta variant that's sort of taking over. And I would be remiss without reminding people and recommending people that it's a good time to start wearing your mask again, especially inside. I know it's a pain in the ass. I know you've had a good time for the last month or two without wearing your mask, but I really think you should wear your mask again, especially when you're inside. And also, if you have not been vaccinated yet, will you please get vaccinated? Because if you get vaccinated and more people get vaccinated, then all this bullshit will go away sooner than later. So please get vaccinated and wear your mask. That's my recommendation.
And for all you none of that there science stuff for me people, instead of using our comment section, how about if you just go outside and just say it to a tree or something. All right, say it to the guy who's been telling you he's your dad for decades, but we all know differently. Just stay the fuck out of our comment section, you ignorant piece of shit. All right, thank you. Well, that felt good. Also, this is somebody wrote in the comment section last time, nice mustache. It's the beard here is gray, and that's why it looks like a mustache to the untrained eye. Okay, let's get on to recommendations while I'm still good and cranky. My first recommendation, normally I've gone back to recommending something for your eyes, something for your ears. So my first recommendation for your eyes, normally I'm on here recommending intelligent horror, stuff like It Follows and Innkeepers. This is not going to be intelligent horror. This is a straight up popcorn movie and a fantastic one. Probably the second best popcorn. This beats out John Dies at the end for best popcorn movie. This is a really excellent popcorn movie. It is called Final Destination 5. So let me explain this in terms of horror movies. If Hereditary is the valedictorian, Final Destination 5 is a kid sitting in the back of the classroom throwing spitballs. The movie itself is the monster. I never saw the earlier Final Destination films, and for a decade, this film came out in 2011. For a decade, people would tell me, you've got to see Final Destination 5. It's bonkers. Basically, a bunch of movie makers got together and said, let's just kill people in interesting ways. And that'll be, like the movie. We'll keep up. And it is. I mean, the deaths are just straight up nuts. They're absolutely fantastic. And in the middle of this, Tony Todd, a.k.a. the Candyman, shows up just to hang around the back of funerals and go, death does not like to be cheated. I'm like, yes, like we got to get a Kickstarter together. So when I die, we can pay Tony Todd to hang out in the back. And as people leave, he goes, death does not like to be cheated. Tony Todd, smoothest motherfucker on the planet. If Tony Todd isn't seeing more ass than the toilets down at the Port Authority, I'm going to be angry. So yeah, big ups to Tony Todd. And now for your ears, since that's a fun movie to watch, again, Final Destination 5, you've really got to see it. For your ears, there's a brand new album. I just found out today, I was listening to We Have a Technical. There's a new Volt 9000 album out. I probably talked about Volt 9000 before on the show. The new album is called Primer. You can get it for free. It's pay what you want. You should pay something, but you can get it absolutely for free. It's fantastic, and it's very fun, sort of glitchy, you'll stompy. It's just good. I like to call it. It's what I put in the. I call angsty meditation music. Is what I call it. I'll often put it on while I'm at work. But it's. I guarantee you, 30. If you get this, 30 years from now, you won't be embarrassed by it. You won't be on like a little YouTube show going, I'm really embarrassed by that. No, Volt 9000 Primer. Trust me on this one.
I'd like to recommend something for your acoustic guitar, and it's Elixir guitar strings. I've been using them since 2015, and they advertise that they hold their tone longer, they last longer, and I find that to be true. They really do. So they're kind of worth it. I just replaced my acoustic strings a couple days ago, but before that, I had the same. I had them all through the pandemic and through my previous tour. They kept their tone all that time.
They're not a sponsor of this video.
And I don't get
And
it.
there is no pandemic, man. That's just science making up things to keep us inside. Otherwise, we totally be gating. We totally be chick magnets.
For saying this. Yeah, they're not a sponsor.
I'd be outside totally scoring with babes if it weren't for this fake pandemic.
Okay.
Mask will save them. I would like to recommend, if you are anywhere in the southeastern Pennsylvania region and you have the means and the time, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, go to Q-Mart in Quakertown. Not only is it amazing, I've been there probably like maybe 10 times in my life. But Chrissy and I went there last Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we got there really early, so we set up a table with a bunch of our stuff. And I think it's funny because I just remembered the last big question. I was saying I would never be a salesman. And then 2 days later, Chrissy and I were sitting there. It was our wedding anniversary too. It was so romantic. We spent the entire day selling our crap. And this is getting a little thinner back here, and the rest of the room sold a bunch of stuff. But even more importantly, like, we met some amazing people. There's a lot of really cool people there. People come from all over, and they're there. They come for each day. We had an outside table because if you don't reserve one, it's first come, first serve. So we showed up at like 6:30 a.m. and it was $10. And we made something like $250.
Nice.
And which is crazy because a lot of stuff when we brought Charlie with us, and because he wanted to help, and we got 10 grand for him. It's funny because when he was starting to get bored because, you know, he's just sitting there, and like, so she took him around, and I am not responsible. So if you're listening to this, I'm probably going to be there on Sunday. Either by myself or with Charlie and maybe one of the other boys. But I was like literally giving stuff away because like people would talk to me like, oh, I've been looking for this forever. How much is it? And I'd be like, $10. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, how about $5? And they're like, I'm like, $2? Okay, yeah.
Do you get to go around? Do they still have the slot cars? Like
They do.
Nice.
Not only do they still have slot car racing, but they have a VR, like a virtual reality room. And Chrissy took Charlie to it, and he had a blast. He was when I was finished, I found him in there, and he had the thing on, and you could see what he was doing. And he was in a kitchen and supposed to be making food in a restaurant, and there were these like robot waiters outside, and when I walked in, he was just throwing dishes at the robot waiters. Like, did you actually do any of the cooking? He was like, yeah, I did that a while ago. It's boring. And I was like, all right. But they were really cool. It's the people there are just so nice. Like I I just talked to so many people. And then when I went and looked around at stuff, I was like, wow, there's some great stuff. There's also, garbage, like almost literally. One guy had all this stuff on his table, and I looked and I see like half a deck of cards and like a chewing gum wrapper. And I'm like, what? Because literally anybody, if you're there at 6 o'clock in the morning and you have $10, you can sell whatever, I guess, within reason.
A buddy of mine once said, if I ever need a piece of a human skull, I'm going to Q-Mart. It was my best summation of that place. It was a weird place.
So if anybody, this will be airing Saturday, and Charlie and I should be there Sunday. So if anybody wants to come to Q-Mart and see the stupid stuff we have for sale, weird records, cool books, a bunch of stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Hush up my mug and fill up my jug with that good old Mountain Dew.